Welcome to Game Day with Carmen. We're going to be reviewing the St Kilda versus Richmond game yesterday. Paul for St Kilda kicks the first goal. There was a really fast start by the Saints. Richmond not showing any fight initially. St Kilda had 11-1 inside fizz in that first quarter. The first game by Robert Thompson, he kicked the first two goals for Richmond. The St Kilda forward pressure was just too much for the young Tigers. St Kilda basically strolling through the middle, finding a target up forward. In the second half, the first goal again to Sharman, but the Tigers were fighting back quite well. They were peppering the goals, but they just weren't able to capitalised on all their forward entries until Taranto got a goal in about the 10th, 12th minute mark of that first quarter. When Richmond do go forward, they just don't seem to take any risks at all. And that's what let them down their forward transition. They didn't take any risks at all. How good's this Wilson kid for St Kilda? What a goal he scored. Geez, I love that kid. Once he scored that goal, you could just tell that Richmond's young kids just didn't have the physical capability to match it with St Kilda. They just kept transitioning from the back line, St Kilda, into their forward line. And at the main break, the lead that was 26 points for St Kilda. Richmond started strongly and they kicked their first goal through Charlie Banfield. I think he was on debut. Then the ball seems to be leaving again in the Richmond half. Again, the Saints backline nullified all their forward thrusts. St Kilda, they kicked 3 goals in a row. Even though Richmond never gave up, they kept coming back. St Kilda kicked 3 goals 4 to 2 goals 5. St Kilda were more accurate than Richmond. And then in that last quarter, Marshall kicks a goal from the boundary line. And then 2 goals to 1 for the Saints halfway through that quarter. Richmond never laid down, and Fawcett kicks his third for Richmond. St Kilda win by about 36 points. I mean, it was a good performance by St Kilda. It wasn't an outstanding performance. They've got some good players that need to come into that side. And Richmond, for having 19 players out of that side, it was a fantastic performance by them. So the best for me for St Kilda was Wilkie, Hall and Garcia. And Garcia's was his best game ever yesterday. And for Richmond, it was Bolter, Ross and Miller. The last game was a real cracker. It was down at GWS versus West Coast. GWS, Daniel scores the first goal and Hutchison replies straight away from West Coast. Game being played mainly in the GWS forward line. So they had all the ascendancy, but they just could not capitalise. They had 16 inside these to 8 by West Coast, and yet they only led by 10 points at quarter time. They should have been a lot further in front. Harley Reid got the crowd going in that second quarter, completely changed right around. The Eagles were applying so much more pressure on the Giants. And the Giants just were not coping. They were fumbling. They were missing their handballs, missing their kicks. They were getting tackled really quickly. So it was a complete turnaround. The ball movement by West Coast was much better. They hit up their play forward line. Shanahan kicked a goal. The Giants came back with Harry Oliver, first gamer, for his first goal for the Giants. But Williams in the centre just got on top. And he just fed Reid, fed Yeo, fed Kelly. They got first hands on the ball and they just dominated the inside 50s. And the Eagles led by 16 points at the main break. It's a 26-point turnaround. In the third quarter, the Giants kicked 5 to hit the front, and that was mainly through their midfield in Bedford, Thomas, Cornelia, Oliver, and Phil Callahan. Complete reversal of the second quarter. The Eagles fought back late in the quarter, and Williams again dominated for the West Coast, and the Giants only led by 4 points. Fighting for the Giants kicks the first goal of the quarter, gives them 10 points up, but you could just tell that the Eagles had more energy, that they were getting to the ball a lot quicker than GWS. Williams, Harley Reid and Williams just took complete control of the midfield, and then they just, fed it to their forward line. There was no real system going forward for the Giants. They just bombed it in long, so they had no system once they did get the ball. Once they did try, they couldn't actually try. They couldn't actually transition from the back line to the forward line. That was because of the West Coast back line that was superbly positioned. Eagles won by 17 points. For me, for the best for the Eagles was Reed, Williams and Yeo, and for the Giants, Thomas, Ash and Callahan. Thank you for listening to Game Day.